Michael Bolford, and this is Uncut News. The Director of Public Prosecutions has just filed an appeal against the court's decision to dismiss Gary Best's causing death by dangerous driving charge. The court had upheld a no-case submission made by Best's lawyer last week on several grounds, including that the prosecution failed to prove that Gary Best did in fact turn his vehicle into a heat-seeking, man-murdering machine. Following the ruling, the DPP moved to the Court of Appeal seeking to have the magistrate's decision set aside or reversed. But if you ask me, this was probably one of the best decisions of her career. Get it? Best? Ha-ha! Oh, I sure hope he goes to prison. And in more depressing news, 60-year-old building contractor Peter Gonzalez was gunned down Monday night on Garnett Street in Georgetown after being trailed by two men on a motorcycle. Gonzalez of Pear Street, Kitty, Georgetown, had died after he was shot multiple times as he tried fighting off the two men who eventually escaped with his black and white Honda XR motorcycle. Paramedics pronounced Gonzalez dead at the scene. One of Gonzalez's employees was also on the motorcycle with him at the time of the incident, but escaped unharmed. Police are currently looking for the two men who witnesses say were not masked. Elbraj Narain is back again as mayor of Georgetown. Yesterday, he was re-elected to serve a third consecutive term. Alfred Mentor also maintained his post as deputy mayor. Both of them ran unopposed. However, the PPPC council members abstained from voting. Following the vote, Narain said that he is ready to put politics aside for the good of the city and actually welcomes an audit of City Hall, as he has been complaining of deeply entrenched issues existing in City Hall since before he was even elected. Now it's time to tell you about Best Buy's car of the day. Currently on sale is this 2014 Toyota Premio with steering controls, TV, navigation stereo, crystal lights, mag rims, fog lamps, and much, much more. This car is almost brand new and has less than 12,000 kilometers on it. Buy cash for $3.775 million, or pay down as low as $760,000 with $74,000 monthly, and it's yours. Call or WhatsApp 662-0844 or visit their showrooms at Lot 171 Peter Rowe Street, Queenstown, or Lot 2 Lamaha Street, and tell them Noriko sent you for this sweet deal. A 55-year-old man of Chester Village, West Coast Mobese, is currently in the ICU after he was struck down by a minibus on Monday. According to police, yesterday afternoon, a 34-year-old minibus driver knocked the pedestrian down as he was crossing the Chester Public Road. The pedestrian is currently being treated at the New Amsterdam Public Hospital in a critical condition, while the driver was arrested and had a breathalyzer test conducted. He was stone cold sober at the time. Recently, two prisoners were discovered with half a kilo of pot, some cigarettes, a bottle of 5-year-old rum, Guinness, and other contraband items concealed in bread bins at the Lusignan prison. According to the Ministry of Home Affairs, the discovery was made on November 17th, but they are just telling us about it. The director of prison said that at about 3 p.m. on that day, two prisoners under the supervision of a prison officer were transporting 4 bread bins from the prison's kitchen to the holding bay when the gate officer on duty conducted a search and unearthed the prohibited items. The police have since launched an investigation which has already resulted in 3 prison officers being charged departmentally for neglect of duty, and they are currently under investigation for criminal conduct. The DPP has recommended criminal charges for Barometer resident and angry drunk Otina Scott after Scott allegedly attempted to murder 25-year-old Joanna John at Barama Lane, Barometer Village, Northwest District on Friday last at around 9:50 p.m. According to reports, the two were drinking themselves silly at a shop in the area when an argument broke out, as what usually happens when people tend to drink themselves silly. Scott then grabbed a broken bottle and stabbed up her friend something terrible. The police were called in and John was taken to the Barometer Health Post, where she was admitted as a patient while Scott was arrested. Investigations are currently ongoing. Check out Cellular Plus and get 50% off this DL3 Pro with a 5.5-inch screen, 32MB storage, and a 5-megapixel camera. Take advantage of this special Christmas offer and get a 30-day Prime Bundle plan with your purchase. Get it now at Cellular Plus for just $12,000. Yesterday, several residents from Blackwood Creek quarantine were calling for the removal of the chairman, Tero Arjun, and the overseer of the Blackwood Creek NDT. According to residents, Arjun has ignored their complaints for over a decade and only addresses issues affecting his family and friends, just like any typical Guyanese politician. But now they're sick of it, and in true Guyanese fashion, they have decided to block the roadways with burning tires and angry placards. Or maybe I should say beast fashion, because it seems like they only have the goal to do that over there. Anyway, they said they will continue the protest action until the relevant authorities dismiss the chairman and the overseer. Ranks were summoned to the location and they began clearing the burning debris and are still monitoring the situation. However, the regional chairman, David Armogen, claims the situation stemmed from a previous issue between a relative of one of the protesters and the town council. He further claims that they are just holding a grudge and are just coalition supporters who want to make them look bad. It's now time for today's Rona Report. Today, the nation recorded 3 new cases. The total number of deaths now stands at 154. There are now 4 persons in the ICU and 638 persons in home isolation. The total number of known cases in the country is now 5,700. So, please, people, wash your hands frequently. Avoid touching your nose and mouth and mask up before you leave the house. When you do leave home, try to avoid enclosed spaces and large crowds, and remember to give 6 feet of space between you and others. Now, let's take a look at news in the region. Peru's National Miners Union announced an indefinite strike to demand respect for labor rights. The demands include compliance with safety at work regulation and modification on collective dismissal and work suspension procedures. They also demand improvements in the profit-sharing system. This comes at the same time as farmers held a national strike and blockades to demand the repeal of the Agrarian Law number 27360, which granted tax benefits to exporting companies while cutting some labor rights. On December 4th, Congress repealed that legislation with 114 votes. The miners hope that they can have a similar outcome in their situation. We are now at the height of robbery season. If I were you, I would consider getting security for the home or business. I personally recommend Sheriff Security Service. I find that they are the most professional, with well-trained armed or unarmed guards. Get some security this Christmas, people. Chile's Human Rights Commission filed a complaint against the military police for the illegal use of chemicals during protests in the nation's capital between November and December 2020. The complaint was filed 1 month after human rights defender Javier Gonzalez was seriously injured while participating in a protest in the capital. The lawsuit includes photographs, documents, and testimonies from her and other people who were pummeled and poisoned by the police. In October 2019, protests began in Chile to reject President Sebastián Piñera's neoliberal policies. Social outrage has continued to date because of the government's mismanagement of the pandemic. And now for our weird news story of the day. Here's a fight I bet you didn't even know existed. After more than a decade of fighting, China and Nepal have finally agreed on how tall Mount Everest is. The world's highest peak, which sits at Nepal's border with Tibet in the Himalayas, stands at 8,848.86 meters, which is about 29,032 feet. Officials from both countries announced that today. This is less than a meter higher than the previously recognized height. The agreement marked the end to a long-running debate over the precise dimensions of the mountain. The hard rock measuring contest started back in 2005. A Chinese survey estimated that the mountain was around 8,844 meters, which is about 29,015 feet. This apparently pissed off Nepal, since they did not authorize the research, meaning that they did not recognize it as the official height, saying that they're actually 14 feet taller and it's cold, so you can't just base it off the cold. I mean, come on, it tends to get smaller at that time. But anyway, it was also discovered that in 2015, that a 7.8 magnitude earthquake may have actually changed the mountain's height. So, in 2017, Nepal chose to break out the ruler and do some measuring of its own. That too was also a willy joke. Moving on to our Uncut News viewers poll question of the day. Every day we pose a question about current events in Guyana, the region, the diaspora, and how you feel it relates to us. So, you give your responses in the comments, and we'll read the best ones in the following episode. Yesterday's question was a little controversial, I admit, but nevertheless, I wanted to know what you all thought about the Midtown Bar, and apparently, you all think the situation stinks worse than the Park of Starboard Market. Jay Jiram said, "That's a very sensitive question," just as I pointed out, "but that looks like insurance fraud, but we'll be investigating this." And I'm Trading said, "I bet it's Spice, cause she's under fire on the bed due to a song with Vibes Cartel." Yes, indeed, under fire. And finally, King of Diamonds said it has become common among business owners to set fire to their properties to get insurance compensation. As recent as a few months ago, NDS at La Jealousy West Coast was willfully set alight for the second time in a few years, and the company was compensated a hefty sum by insurance, even though it was reported by neighbors that they smelled the strong scent of kerosene hours before the building was seen on fire. Uh-oh, mouth open, story fall out. Alright, now before we get to tonight's question, I have to tell you, brighten up the holiday season and decorate your homes with new stock of vinyl, carpet, rubber tile, leather, glassware, doilies, table plastic, rugs, and Roll Runner easy-to-clean carpets. Available in many colors, patterns, and designs to choose from. Beat the rush and enjoy the glorious days of shopping at Ravina's and Anand's. Ravina's and Anand's have unbeatable prices. For fast and comfortable shopping, visit them at Ravina's at 17A Water Street or Anand's at 108 Regent Street, or call them at telephone number 225-6595. So for tonight's question, this one is for all our viewers in Berbice. How do you feel about the protests in Blackwood Creek? Are they legitimate, or is there more to the mortar than the pestle? Think about that question and tell us in the comments below. If your response is good enough, we just might feature it in Wednesday's episode. Anyway, that's all the time we have for tonight. Check us out tomorrow for another. Until then, I'm Noriko Bullford saying good night, folks. Hey, Uncut News viewers, thanks for watching. You can subscribe by clicking on this button over here, or click over there for more news. You can also drop a comment to let me know if you've made it to the end of the video. Goodbye for now.